Hello buddy, yeah, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are on the mouth of the pass playing as the Force of the Wood Elves against the Force of the High Elves. And this is a matchup I honestly haven't really touched in quite a while. Usually I don't play Wood Elves, and when I do, usually I don't pick them into High Elves or get counterpicked by High Elves, fortunately. So it's been a little while, but going in I wanted to try something a little bit more standard, a little bit more meta, at least as far as I know, and play things safe. So going over my build here, for my Lord, I'm going to be rocking the Glady. She's obviously kind of the meta pick. She's very strong on her Forest Dragon here, because she does get both 25% missile resist as well as 20% physical resist. And that combines rather nicely against the High Elves. Most of their missile pressure is normal physical damage, so she can shrug off about half of it. And that's not even counting armor. So against the Lothan Sea Guard, Archers, Shadow Warriors, that sort of thing you usually see. He's pretty beefy. Besides that, we do have the Heir of Kurnus to potentially poke at enemy artillery pieces, enemy lores, characters, that sort of thing, as well as Prevana Threma. Of course, lock down key targets, make them nice vulnerable targets for my contingent of Way Watchers back here, 2 units of them, as well as the Deepwood Scouts. There's 3 of them up there. Or otherwise to help me extricate myself from bad situations, help the Wild Hunters of Kurnus get a charge, and those sorts of things. So it's just always valuable to have a net. And of course, Breath Attack, nice to melt infantry formations, especially High Elves who tend to have very tight, compact infantry. Alongside her, Spellslinger of Life, she is coming in with 2 spells and no Earthblood, which may come as a surprise to some, but we've got Life Bloom here for the healing, of course. Not the strongest heal, but I figured it hits map wide, it can heal my archers a smidgen. Could be nifty. Regrowth, because honestly, there's not many targets for me to heal here. I'm not going to be using Earthbloods, really. Chances are, if I'm going to be healing a key target, it's going to be Glade Lord or the Wild Hunters of Kurnus, and nothing else. So I figured Regrowth is the only heal I really need. Then we do have Flesh to Stone. I really like that spell in synergy with Wild Riders. It buffs their armor up to 100, and so when you're fighting against something like Dragon Princes, it can really make a big difference. Either swinging a fight you'd barely win with, say, the Wild Hunters into a decisive win, or helping normal Wild Riders perform a lot better. Besides that, of course, a handful of Eternal Guard make up the front line. Not much to be said for these bad boys. They're just there to sort of slug it out with spears, bog down white lines, that sort of thing, and buy me time. Heir of Kurnus are already flying, soaring into my opponent's bolt thrower here. The Eagle Claw bolt thrower deployed way in the back, probably to pressure me and force me to advance, which is not a bad choice. Especially if you play by tournament rules, it's often nice to bring an artillery piece just for that reason, but even in a quick match, it's nice to put your opponent under a little heat and make them decide between attacking or sort of camping. Rest of the army, a bunch of spearmen there to protect a rather small contingent of archers, just 2 units of them, as well as 2 units of shadow warriors, one of which is the gray. Bit of a surprise there. I'm not a big fan of the gray, really, even though this is a decent matchup for him. I think it's usually better to just run shadow warriors. They're cheaper and more cost effective. We also do have 2 units of dragon princes out there. Fortunately, Heir of Kurnus did not knock out a model for the Claw bolt thrower, so a bit of a waste there, but Dragon Princes are out here. Very big threat to the Wild Riders, of course, as well as Larry and a Frostheart Phoenix. And Frostheart Phoenix, bit of an oddball choice, something I wouldn't have expected, but perhaps that Terror will come in handy. And for Larry, we've got Tempest as well as Earthblood, and that's it. No Frost Protection. Most of our kit, granted, but a bit surprised we're not seeing Frost Protection. That said, Tempest, of course, does have a very beautiful target here in the form of the Glady. As you can see, I'm trying to skedaddle a bit out of range there. Gray is firing. Of course, these guys do have snipe, so they are unspotted at the moment. Now they do open fire on my poor Deepwood Scouts here, who are going to return fire on the vanilla Shadow Warriors. And this is really where snipe, at these very long-range fights, this is where snipe does come in handy, because I'm not able to spot these guys, but I did spot the Shadow Warriors right away once they fired. And as you can see here, we are melting them rather effectively. Now, do keep in mind, Shadow Warriors have 30 as opposed to the 15 armor on the Deepwood Scouts, so they are quite a bit beefier. But still, Deepwood Scouts are cheaper. You can overwhelm them with mass fire, and as you can see, these guys are all losing models, plus the Glady taking pot shots there with their bow. It's going to start wearing these boys down pretty quick, and my opponent probably doesn't want to waste an Earthblood on them. And you can see there they did lose about 10 models, so within that space of just a few seconds. So really unpleasant situation for him. My opponent is pushing forward with the Spearmen. Archers kind of lagging behind, but the Shadow Warriors actually routing to missile fire there. So very, very unpleasant. Now, granted, my Deepwood Scouts here not doing too hot, but you know, they've pushed these guys back. They're gonna be able to focus on the gray once they're spotted. My Shadow and my Way Watchers still haven't fired a shot, so that's nice. I've been able to retain them in good shape without any risk. And of course, Way Watchers are a unit you want to keep for the key targets. They're not a unit you want to waste on unarmored gray, on unarmored Shadow Warriors, spears, that sort of thing. It's something you want to use when you absolutely have to against targets that you can't shut down otherwise. Now, unfortunately, Tempest here does nail the Glady, and it is Overcast, and Tempest, kind of a brutal spell. Basically, overshoot against just about any flyer, and as you can see here, it is just melting the Glady. She is taking some fire from the Grey as well, but it's really mostly Tempest doing this much damage, and it shaves off a good half of her HP or so, even with the bolt thrower firing a little bit there and that sort of thing. It's brutal damage. Glady is immediately put very low on HP. I do fire an Arrow of Kurnus off one last time, try and knock that Eagle Claw out, and as you can see, we fail again. Now the Tempest is the Phoenix is coming in. I do nail it with the Prey of Anathrema, but my opponent actually routs the Glady, and this is a bit of a disaster. I actually just wasted a regrowth on her, and now Alariel is going to be able to chase her off the field. I don't have 2 nets, obviously, and so Glady, who I just healed and who cost me an arm and a leg, this is like a 1/6 of my army, is being chased off the field. So yeah. Not happy days, and of course, Larry still does have her. Wonderful, wonderful star, so she can always heal herself. She can always heal the Phoenix. So things not looking good. Now, Spearmen over here are getting whittled down by the Eternal Guard. Archers do start firing away on the Deepwood Scouts, so we are going to pull back out of range, trying to get away. Dragon Princes engaging here on the flank. As you can see, Flesh to Stone went down a little late here, so the Wild Hunters are suffering a little bit in this exchange, but there's no Archer fire supporting them, so Dragon Princes will lose. Over here on this flank, Dragon Princes do sort of smash into the Wild Riders, but the Wild Riders actually got the jump on them. These guys were focused on my infantry, or my archers, and so the Way Watchers now just pouring hell into the Dragon Princes. While back here, the Flyers are way out of position, so this is, I think, a bit of a misplay on my opponent's part. It's chasing the Glady with 2 characters, or 2 units. Now, I could have used 1 to disrupt at least one of the Way Watchers, and so the Dragon Princes here are just suffering, isolated. This unit here gets shattered, and now the Wild Hunters are free. They are free to run amok. You can see we are just down to 29 models, but still fighting strong, running over the Grey here, and the Archers crumbling under that decisive Deepwood Scout fire. So really some brutal stuff. Wild Riders win this fight with the help of the Way Watchers. Dragon Princes, once beaten, are not fast enough to outrun Wild Riders, so that is a big win for us. We're going to be able to remove this cap from play and really teach them a lesson. Archers, in the meantime, being compromised. The Wild Hunters here getting a regrowth, getting a massive heal there, massive burst of HP, and of course replenishing all of their vigor, which is glorious. Able to sweep through these archers very, very efficiently and just mop up the Shadow Warriors. My opponent's missile line is very much compromised. Now, granted, the Deepwood Scouts here are broken, but Larry is still quite a ways away. She is forced to dodge away from that archery fire. Same with the Phoenix. They're not quite in position yet. They're trying to get there, but we saw the Spellsinger. And Eternal Guard will win out this frontline fight. They're slightly chevron up, which doesn't matter too much, but usually an Eternal Guard will beat Spearmen, so it just takes forever. So with the charge in here from the Wild Hunters, we are able to just crush them, and my opponent is finding himself in a compromised position. Now, unfortunately, the Eternal Guard here getting compromised by Larry. She does pop the Star of Averlorn, so she's going to be healing herself for a massive amount. Pigeon Lady just crushing the poor Eternal Guard, though. Keep in mind, these guys have a beefy 80 leadership, so they don't break easily, especially when Terror's not involved. And in the meantime, the Froststar Phoenix here trying to get cheeky, trying to get in on the Way Watchers, and although one unit does tear out, the Wild Hunters are able to get in. Froststar is compromised. My opponent has nothing to save it with. Alariel is out here dealing with the Eternal Guard. Crossfire pours in. The Spellsinger's in there as well, providing her magical Dragon Ball Z moves there. Froststar Phoenix on the ground is actually too slow to outrun Wild Riders. We are able to hit these guys with Flesh to Stone, buffing their armor a little bit against some of the archery that I was expecting, though. As it is, it's mostly just bolt thrower shots, but, you know, at least a little bit of beefiness helps. Way Watchers are forced back, but now that they're disentangled, they're able to pressure that Froststar Phoenix, and we've just managed to remove that key unit from play, and things are looking much better for us. Despite that loss of a Lord, we are starting to look a lot better. Wild Riders here still running amok in the back line, crashing into those archers, going to be heading on to the next line there very, very shortly, and Larry is forced to take off here. We will see this beautiful charge here of the Deer Cav slamming into the High Elf archers. These guys just don't have a chance. So these guys just kind of ignore it. They're just kind of like, yeah, our friends got run over by some deer, but oh well, it's all good. So Wild Riders here compromise the backline completely, and well, game is definitely looking very good for us. Over here, the Wild Hunters, of course, are going to be able to pursue the Froststar Phoenix off the field. The archers here are very low at this point. Wild Riders here, though, being pressured by Alariel, and of course she does have magic attacks, so she tends to do pretty well against that physical resist and lack of armor. That said, she's basically a healing cap, and at this point, I'm pretty confident in my win. Now, granted, keep in mind, ammo is running low. The only units that really have ammo for me now are Way Watchers. The Deepwood Scouts are basically out of ammo, so if my opponent can somehow pick off the Way Watchers, especially with Larry, things could still look a little dicey. That said, Flesh to Stone goes down, offsets that bad armor we got on the Wild Riders. It's going to make them much better against Lariel here. Normally, she'd just take this fight pretty handily with support, but it's going to take her a lot longer to deal with these guys now that they're buffed up a little bit. So Larry here is slowly but surely taking the heat. The Spell Singer does dive into the back of those archers. We can see some Waywatcher fire pouring in, trying to whittle down Lariel from long range. Not exactly succeeding too well, but at this point she's heal capped, essentially, so she's not going to be able to come back from that. She does pop a Star of Avalon, and then it gets a smidgen of healing, I think. Heals these archers who dive into melee trying to save her, but Larry is at this point compromised. Eternal Guard collapsing on this pocket. It's once again spear on spear. Classic ancient warfare here. It makes sense. Elves, after all, aren't exactly the height of technological progress. There are a handful of Deepwood Scouts mixed in there. Obviously, at this point, out of ammo, so not much to do for him now. There is a lot of Spearmen left, but really, without leadership, with Lariel way out of position there, and with the fact that Waywatcher still has some ammo, and obviously, once all of my opponent's key threats are removed, once these archers are chased off by the Wild Hunters, who are getting another regrowth there, getting a beefy heal. Once all these troops are compromised and removed from play, and once Larry is shut down, obviously I'll use Waywatcher ammo, so my opponent does decide to concede there before the end. So, a fun little build. It's still obviously a very difficult matchup for the Wood Elves, and honestly I think I got a little bit lucky with my opponent overcommitting to chasing off the my Lord, as well as bring a bit of a janky build. In my opinion, it would have been better to bring more cavalry or perhaps more Shadow Warriors instead of these archers. Shadow Warriors just kind of poke and trait a little bit better since they're invisible. Not sure you need this many spears. Since Wood Elves traditionally don't have a very easy time getting into your backline anyway, it's not like they're going to be charging you a lot of the time. So I think this build could be stripped down a little bit. Froststar Phoenix obviously is a source of terror, but once again, not sure it's worthwhile over, say, another unit of Cav. If you strip down this build, this isn't a very tree-heavy map, so you don't necessarily need the artillery to break a tree blob that's camping in the woods. So, for example, you could bring, say, 4 units of Dragon Princes, or maybe 2 units of Dragon Princes, 2 Silver Helms, drop a Spear, get an extra unit of Shadow Warriors in there, drop the Grey as well, get maybe 4 Shadow Warriors in there. It's just a significant facelift or an overhaul there, and I think you'd be in a stronger position against the Woodies. Now, in my turn, obviously the my Glady use was massively micro. That was just very bad. Glady got routed off, having done almost no damage. She got 15 kills. I think most of that was artillery crew, though, and maybe a handful of the Grey. Really nothing too inspiring, and especially for almost 3,000 gold invested in a character. Just not very good at all. Obviously, I should have just played better. Should have protected her better. Should have been more careful about that Tempest and more respectful of how much damage to leadership my opponent had done. Because between the missile pressure and the Tempest damage, she just didn't have the leadership to hold up. And so I should have probably pulled back on that regrowth up. That would have been in a better spot. The rest of the build, though, incredibly pleased with the Deepwood Scouts. They out-traded the Shadow Warriors. They crushed the Archers later on. They really routed them off. Eternal Guard did well. They held up as well the way you would expect. Waywatchers also really the rest of the build performed, in my opinion, very admirably. The Wild Riders held up the Cav, traded incredibly well with the Dragon Princes, especially with the Waywatcher support against one unit. Managed to rout or shatter them off the field. And then, of course, cleaned up the back line, helped break the Spearmen formations, and that kind of sealed the deal for my army. Had I been able to keep that dragon alive, I think things would have gone quite a bit easier, but then again, perhaps my opponent wouldn't have overextended the Frost Hearts, could have shaken things up differently. Regardless, well played to Eastern Archer here. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. As usual, leave your thoughts, opinions, comments, and critiques down below. Unfortunately, as I've mentioned before, right now, my work and life situation is not great for making videos. So I know the posting is very sporadic, very occasional. And I know we haven't seen any tier lists or fixing the forgotten or anything of that nature, any history videos either. I just really haven't had the time to prepare those, because those do take, for me, quite a bit of preparation. But as usual, guys, really do appreciate the support, really do appreciate the comments and all of that stuff. So hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.